BRUCAST is back, baby.
This BRUCAST episode is brought to you by the BRUCAST Store. Explore a store filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with BRUCAST. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Visit now brew-cast.com/store. Link below.
Back with the fire, can't you see the flames? From Deutschland steps comes the BRUCAST name. Voices like thunder breaking all the chains. Unleash the fury like a runaway train.
Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to another BRUCAST episode. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rate the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast recommends to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. BRUCAST also on Instagram, X, and TikTok, where I upload shorts with the highlights of the show. So follow now, BRUCAST on Instagram, X, and TikTok. Links in the description below.
Back here we thrive, we survive.
Alright, hey there BRUCAST fans, welcome back to another BRUCAST episode. If you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Yes, leave a comment. I want to know what you thought about today's episode. Engage with the channel. I want to see more engagement. If you're listening on Spotify, you can also leave a comment. I'm also gonna read your comment. I'm gonna read all of your comment, guys. just say something and subscribe. All right. Without further ado, let's welcome our very special guest of the day. Her name is Aleksandra Ceho. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm wonderful. How are you, Brew?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being here. Before we started, I mentioned that it's not a topic that I know too much about, but I'm eager to get to understand it a little bit better. So before anything, what about you introduce yourself to us?
Well, hi, everyone. My name is Aleksandra Ceho. I'm an astrologer. I've been practicing for about 20 years. I've been formally trained with the Modern Mystery School, and astrology was my very first love. I'm very lucky as I get to serve the world as an astrologer, and I primarily work with entrepreneurs using forecasting to help them accentuate and accelerate their business, and also to help them buy back time so that they can have personal lives and good health as well.
Wow, that's impressive. So there's a difference, right, between astrology and astronomy. Astrology is the study of the cosmos, right?
Well, so astrology is, you know what? I'll say this.
Yeah.
Astronomy is the study of the cosmos.
Astronomy. Okay.
Astronomy.
Yeah.
But thousands of years ago, they were one and the same. They didn't differentiate. And so it was the astrologers who studied the cosmos. And so astrology and astronomy basically got differentiated with the advent of, of science and, astronomical development, specifically when we created the telescope and started studying the stars in a different way.
All right. So it all originates from the point in time where the telescope was created. That's when it became serious, let's say.
Well, that's when it deviated or split
okay.
branches is what we could say. But prior to that, astronomy and astrology were all one science that were studied for thousands of years together, hand in hand.
That's so much fun. That's cool because star signs, right? We all have our own star signs, and accordingly to astrology, as far as I understand it, it tells a little bit more about your personality. It's all out there in the stars. And okay, let's start there. Let's start with this question. Why?
Yeah. Okay, well, that's a great question. Why? I love that. So first of all, we have to go back to the original founder of astrology. And his name was Hermes Trismegistus. And he is some people believe that he is a mythological figure. However, he did leave many works for us. And perhaps the most famous of his works is called the Hermetica. And in the Hermetica, he shares a lot about the nature of human beings and how we are divine. And so Hermes Trismegistus posited that our nature is divine in origin. And astrology is actually an energy that we use to fulfill our personal mission or purpose while we are alive on the planet. And so you could think of it as different kinds of gas that are in your vehicle that help you achieve what you are here to do. And so your sun sign or your zodiac sign is just one of them.
Okay. All right. How did he came up with that? That sounds so incredible.
Oh my gosh. Well, there's a whole story behind that, but the summary of that story is that Hermes communicated with the nous, which is the mind of God. And so it's said that Hermes retreated into a cave and he went there to have that communion with the mind of God. And that was where he received many teachings and insights into human nature, because Hermes, had questions about who are we as human beings and why are we here? We're not just here to have a material existence or a material experience. He wanted to understand the meaning and purpose of it. And so he went into the cave and he went into that deep personal journey, soul seeking, I guess you could say. And there he was able to make that connection with the mind of God and received many teachings, insights, and philosophies that actually influence a lot of modern day spirituality.
Really? Wow, this guy's a legend.
He is actually, he's quite legendary. And some people believe that he has shown up multiple times throughout the ages.
Wow, it's like a reincarnation or something?
Some people believe that, yeah.
So wait a second. I need to check. So what's the name of the guy?
Hermes, Hermes, and then Trismegistus. So Trismegistus.
So Hermes Trismegistus. Oh, this is in German. 1 second, guys. 1 second. English. Let's look the English translation. He's a legendary syncretic figure blending the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth, considered the purported author of foundational mystical texts known as the Hermetica, forming the basis of Hermeticism, a philosophy dealing with magic, alchemy, and astrology, emphasizing hidden knowledge and the unity of the cosmos. Wow. That's super cool.
I told you were going to learn cool things today.
Yeah, I'm hooked. I'm hooked. I read this book. It was so I gave up because it was really long, and but I read like at least half of it. I think it was The Key. How it's called again, guys? I forgot. But it was all about how some early religions was highly influenced by people taking some type of drugs, some type of mushrooms or something like that. I don't know. And if I'm not mistaken, they used to do that a lot in Greece. Maybe there's something of that in there. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And so Hermes was the original founder of astrology as well as alchemy, like you mentioned. One of his other famous works are the famous emerald tablets of alchemy. And, as I mentioned, Hermes taught about us being divine in nature, that we're not just animals, and that we're not just here for a material experience. And so astrology is the art of returning back to the divine and to understanding the divine within you. And so, in psychology, they talk about this concept of archetypes. And so within every one of us, we all have these divine archetypal natures and multiple of them, not just one. There is a nuance and a complexity to each of us as beings.
Okay, so by studying astrology, when we end up kind of studying ourselves, learning more about ourselves.
Yeah, astrology is the work of know thyself.
Oh, wow.
And to know thyself is the beginning and end of all wisdom. And throughout history, royalty and statesmen and leaders, uh, they all studied astrology, one, to know themselves, and two, to use it in service to their mission and purpose to the people that they represented. And when it comes to studying astrology, I always love to look at Alexander the Great because he was taught by Aristotle. And so Alexander the Great knew his chart inside out and backwards. And so he knew what his strengths were. He began to understand his blind spots. And that was how he succeeded in creating the empire that he did. Unfortunately, it didn't last, but to have gotten that far through sheer daring, it was truly a result of knowing himself and the wisdom that was passed on to him by Aristotle.
How much of it would you say is just let me pick my words here wisely. Is just I don't want to say ego fueling, but
Oh, I love this question. If I understand what you're looking for, is what's the difference between just kind of putting your personality in a box versus the more traditional growth oriented aspects of astrology? Is that kind of what you're trying to hit on there?
not sure. What I was trying to get at is, let's say you're Alexander the Great, right?
Yeah.
And you're learning about astrology and about yourself. Let's say the guy who is teaching him, you said Aristotle, right? Let's say Aristotle was full of shit. I'm not saying that's the case. And he just said what Alexander the Great needed to hear in order to gain confidence on himself. So how much do you say there's that? I'm not saying that's that, but how much is the, at least I would say there's at least a percentage, like 1%. He's like
So
filling the
you're
holes.
basically asking me to call out my industry here.
No, not at all. But
But that's a legit thing.
let me try again. Let me put it more gracefully. How much would you say there's assumption in the whole thing? How much is filled with assumptions versus like knowledge? Like,
That depends on the astrologer.
I think that's my question. There you go.
That depends on the astrologer. And so I also teach. And one of the things that I tell people, because especially nowadays, it's really easy. I mean, there's all kinds of online courses. You go and now you are a shamanic healer or this or that. And when it comes to astrology, you have to do the self work first. Because every one of us has our own nature, we have our own preferences, we have our own values. And as an astrologer, and this is something that I truly believe, you have to be not only understanding, meaning non judgmental, but you also need to be able to support every sign and every nature. And so if you have blind spots within you, if you have preferences or opinions about, for example, the four elements, earth, water, air, fire, or certain zodiac signs, you can't serve people as an astrologer. And so this is why my response to you is that it really does depend on the astrologer. And someone like Aristotle, he was an initiate of the Greek mystery schools. This was a man who spent a lot of time in contemplation, in ritual, in ceremony, in studying deeper teachings. I mean, I can't say I knew him personally, but even when you read his works, you can feel the deeper nature to him, in that he truly would think and reflect in order to serve whoever presented themselves to him. Right? So to kind of answer your question, yeah, there are astrologers out there. So yes, you are asking me to call out my industry, and I'm okay with that. There are astrologers out there who haven't necessarily done that work. And they're the ones who are going to say, "Oh, don't you go and date an Aries man? He's not good for you," or that kind of thing. And And that actually undermines the original spirit of astrology, which was that we are all divine. And so there are 12 divine natures as they run through the constellations, and you have to have respect and reverence for every one of them.
Wow. That's so interesting. So, how would you assess your astrologer? How would you know if he's someone who is well read and well studied?
Well, that's a great question. So the first thing that I tell people is, you want to know that someone's been doing the self work first.
Okay.
And so a lot of people, like they'll go on the internet and they'll read like the introductory books that you can find nowadays, and you want to know that they've done the self work first. Because if I have judgments about men, for example, as an astrologer, well, when I'm talking to my clients about relationships, then I'm going to be putting my issues about men onto them.
Oh, yeah.
So I I always encourage people, find the person who's been studying it a long time before they ever decided to take it up as a practice. And this applies equally to astrology as it does to something like tarot or spiritual healing. You want to know that the person who is trying to serve you can come with a clean plate so that they can truly support you and not just push stuff from their subconscious onto you.
I see. All right. So basically, you need to, if you're serious about it and you want to see an astrologer, it would be better if you did some research first. Is that the case? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I went to see an astrologer once in Brazil. I had no idea. I went with a friend of mine, like she said, I know a guy. He's the best. And went like to his garage and we did the thing. He showed me the tarot cards. And I had no idea if he's good or not. I don't know him, but it was fun. And so basically, let's say I did a mistake. Ideally, I should have researched a little bit more whose garage I was going to.
That's usually a good idea,
Yeah.
especially if you're going to the garage.
I mean, it was interesting. Let's put it that way.
There's so much beautiful spirituality in Brazil. I've actually been there teaching astrology. So
Really,
I've gone to Florianopolis a couple of times with the Modern Mystery School Brazil there, and it's been a wonderful time. I love Brazil.
that's wonderful. Could you tell us a little bit more about it? Because I'm in Germany, but I am Brazilian, so I love the culture. I miss Brazil. So you've been to Florianopolis with the mystery school, and
Yeah.
what do you guys do there exactly?
Oh my gosh. Well, the Mystery School is actually a metaphysical school that works with the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus as they came through the lineage of King Solomon. And so we're talking about these ancient historical figures, but those teachings have actually survived into this day. And so, how many times have I gone to Brazil? I think it's 3 or 4 times now, and every time more wonderful than the last. And so, in the mystery school, we focus on what we call the great work, and the great work is about living the divine in your life. And we all suffer from things like stress. Maybe some of us have jobs we don't like. Maybe our relationship's not going that great. Maybe we have financial worries. And a lot of these things that we suffer from, we often have the solutions right within us. And so I said to you earlier that to know thyself is the beginning and end of all wisdom. But to know thyself actually means more than just know. It means to live as a fully embodied being. And so, like, I gave you the example earlier, Brew, about how your sun sign is just one aspect of your chart. And so within you, there are other gifts traits, abilities, areas of wisdom that either you worked with or have dabbled with, or you may not necessarily know about because other aspects of who you are and what your life has asked for come to the forefront. And so there is so much more to who you are. And in the work of the mystery school and in completing the great work, that is to take all the goodness of who you are as a being, your strengths, your talents, your areas of wisdom, and also to do this work of what we call transmuting traumas and perceived weaknesses and blind spots, because those are just unsupported strengths. And so we work on all of that so that you become the greatest version of who you are. And from there, things like financial worries, things like relationships, stressors, mental, emotional, physical health, you can start to change those things because the whole you is able to tackle it from a place of empowerment.
Mm. So the great work, living the divine in your life, and the last one you said transmuting. Is that correct?
Yeah, transmuting.
Okay. Wow, that sounds like transformative. And did all of this happens through how many sessions would you say?
Oh my gosh. Well, for some people, they do a couple of healing sessions, they take a couple of classes, they get what they need and they move forward. And then some people actually choose to move on as practitioners
Oh, okay.
and to continue the depth of personal transformation, because for your own personal life, a lot of times, some healing and taking classes like Empower Thyself, receiving that spiritual initiation, that can just start to up level your life. But then for others, they feel called to serve the rest of the world, to help eliminate the misery and the suffering that they see around them. And if you're going to step up into those levels of service, you also need to be extra clear within, because like I was telling you earlier, bro, you can't serve people from a place of unresolved trauma, opinions, judgments. It doesn't work that way.
I see. Wow. And the practitioner, how does like could you walk us through a session, for example? Because the astrologer he knows a couple of things, right? He knows tarot. Like how?
Not
No.
necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily. Maybe the one you saw in the garage did.
The one I saw in the garage did. That's true. So that's not necessary.
No, that's not necessarily true. So when you're working with an astrologer, the very first thing that they're going to ask you for is your birth information.
Okay.
And so that's your date of birth, your birth time, if you know it, and then birth location. Now, if you don't know the time, there is a certain technique called chart rectification that can use life events to go back and recalculate the birth time, or to refine it if you have a window. For example, a lot of people tell me, I know I was born between 11 and 11:30. And so we can narrow within that window, we can actually narrow it down to get an actual time, because sometimes they want to use the actual time, say it was 11:17, right? They can use that number for things like numerology and that kind of thing. So there's other uses to the specific time.
Do the seconds matter, or that's too much?
Uh, well, I'll put it to you this way. The seconds could matter.
Okay.
Generally not, but in the chart rectification, you can narrow it down to the second. But generally, the seconds are not likely to matter unless you happen to be born like in a minute where what's called the ascendant changes, or you have, say, the moon changing signs, or that kind of thing. And I have had that happen before. So sometimes, yes, the second does count.
That's so interesting. I'm sure there's something to like besides the garage experience that I had. Like I don't have a lot of experience with astrology, but I'm sure there's something to it, especially when you start mentioning numerology, right? That's how you pronounce it, numerology.
Yeah.
Like because I'm a big fan of the Egyptian culture and the pyramids, and like if you
Oh yeah.
and if you start like listing all the facts from the pyramids, you know, like based on the stars and how, you know, I don't have everything, but um, I mean, I could look it up, you know, numerology, pyramids. There's so many interesting facts between the
Oh yeah.
architecture of the pyramids in the universe. There's so many of them. Let's see if there's numerology pyramids. Okay, no, one sec. Numerology Egyptian pyramids, particularly the Great Pyramid, involves finding symbolic meanings in its dimensions, linking numbers like 3, 4, 5 to deities Osiris, Isis, Horus, and creating myths. Oh, come on, it's not a myth. And connecting geometric ratios like pi to cosmic principles. Okay, it's not being specific, but there's a lot of them, guys. I'm gonna share the screen. And if you take this in consideration, take in consideration that we might be living in a simulation, right? Astrology, in my mind, that's my interpretation. Astrology all of a sudden makes sense. It's all true, you know.
Yeah.
That's my interpretation. I don't know if you,
Well, I love that you kind of brought up this like concept of a simulation.
yeah.
You know, when I talk to people, you know, about purpose and astrology and that kind of thing, you know, especially when it comes to what we would consider to be detriments in a chart. And when you see a detriment in a chart, it's usually an area that the person has trouble with in life. So I like to use a video game as an analogy. So for those of you who are listening, if you know that you have a detriment in your chart, say Mercury is detrimented, one of the common things that people often experience with that is overthinking and anxiety and anticipatory behaviors. So you have Mercury in detriment. And so what I like to tell them is before you came down to this planet, before you were born, you sat down with God and you had a little chat. You said, God, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to accomplish. Now, I want to come in with a detriment to Mercury because I am a master of the mind. So when I go into this video game, I don't want to play the mental game on easy. Give it to me on expert level. I got this. Whatever the detriments are in your chart, whatever your perceived weaknesses you think you have, on the spiritual realm, you're a master. And when you transmute that, what's going to stop you? Nothing. If that was your ball and chain, if that was the thing that you've been dragging around that slowed you down, and you can unshackle that and turn that around, what's left to stop you?
Nothing, but you need to know about it first, right? That's the
You
point.
need to know about it first. And sometimes you just need to remember that you're playing the video game on expert level. So instead of feeling victimized, you know, as a result of your perceived weakness or inadequacy or whatever it is, you just need to recognize, hey, I'm playing this on expert level. So I just got to up my game here. And that's totally possible.
Aleksandra, we need to go into a short sponsor break, but when we're back, I want to ask you about God, if that's okay.
Totally.
All right, we're going to be right back, everyone. See you soon. Parents, have you been searching for an app that's both fun and educational for your kids? I've got something exciting to share with you today. It's called FunTastic Plus. FunTastic Plus is a free app where education meets entertainment, designed specially for children ages 2 to 12. It's built by experts, completely ad-free and totally safe, so you can feel confident handing your phone or tablet to your little ones. Inside the app, kids will find a world of engaging content, their favorite cartoons, audiobooks and songs to spark imagination, educational games that make learning fun, and all of that to keep them entertained while supporting their development. FunTastic Plus is available on iPhones and iPads and even works offline. So whether you are on a road trip, flying, or just at home, your kids will always have something to enjoy. So if you're ready to give your kids a space that's both fun and educational, download now FunTastic Plus for free on the App Store. FunTastic Plus, a safe and ad-free educational platform for kids. Link on the description below. All right, and we're back. Go check it out, FunTastic Plus, guys. It's an amazing app. It's for kids, so parents, download it for your kids. It's a lot of fun, I guarantee you. All right, Aleksandra, we're back. And do you believe in God?
Yes.
All right, so
Which God?
Oh, now it's getting interesting. Which God do you believe in?
Which God? Well, some people look at God in the sky, you know, the big man in the sky. Yes, I believe in that God. But what about the other God? Who is the other God?
Okay.
The God within.
The God within. All right. What that means? There's a God inside of us?
Absolutely. Absolutely, there is. Who else is in a better position to be the power in your life than you?
So we're the masters of our lives, basically.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's a nice way of putting it.
And that is the divine that Hermes Trismegistus talked about. The great work is embodying that creative power, that God within you.
This Hermes guy was pretty smart, huh?
Oh, there's so much more. You've got 7 Hermetic principles. You have the teachings of alchemy. There's theurgy, which was the use of ritual magic to conduct these forces so that you could act along with the heavens in the, engaging in acts of creation.
Isn't that a phrase that goes like a religion is when you go to an institution and go to like the church and talk to the priest, and spirituality is actually the higher truth. That's what is within, right? That's more important than religion, basically.
No intermediaries.
No intermediaries. Yeah, you don't need the Pope to talk to God. You can talk to God just because it's within you. That's I heard
Yes.
that before. Yeah.
Yes. Now, are there times to listen to the Pope? Yeah, there are. This is a learned man who has studied and who through those studies and also through dedicated service, right? Through that dedicated service, through those years of study, there has been wisdom accumulated. And so there are times too, but you don't need to go through someone else to connect to the divine.
Would you say that most astrologers, they also believe in God?
Well, it's a little bit hard to answer that question. And the reason that I say that is because I don't know how many astrologers nowadays have actually read the original works. And so if you go back to the oldest surviving, mostly complete astrological text, which was the Astronomica written by Marcus Manilius during the times of Caesar, there it talks about us being divine beings. If you go and read, other ancient works, of course, they refer to the teachings of Hermes and to our divine nature. Ptolemy would be one of them, who was living in the Grecian Alexandria. And so if you go back to the old works, yes, but I actually can't tell you how many people have been going back to those works. Because if you go and look at most astrology nowadays, it really does kind of sit within the ego stroking that you had brought up earlier, in terms of, well, actually ego stroking, but I could also say personality typology. And so I really have to congratulate the world of marketing for doing an excellent job of taking something very divine, spiritual that was meant to grow and actually turning it into boxes and justifications for lower ways of being.
Well, I guess money's to blame, right? Some people just
Well,
yeah.
I mean, marketing has learned a secret. We all want to hear about ourselves. And
Oh,
so,
that's true. I think I saw once a study, they analyzed how many, what's the most used word in every telephone conversation ever? Like, what's the word that people use the most? And it's I or me. That's the word that people use the most in basically most conversations. People love themselves.
well, I mean, I'm glad that they do. It's not like we should hate ourselves.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Like, loving yourself is a prerequisite to being good to yourself, and if you're good to yourself, you're generally good to others. So
Mm.
so I'm okay with that. But when that knowledge is manipulated, it's not as nice.
Would you say that intuition also plays a role?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the reason that I say that is because your natal chart, your birth chart is not static. So when I talk to someone, like let's say I do their birth chart in their late teenage years, right? So there are certain things that are going to ring true for them, and then there are other things that either they haven't encountered yet, because they're in their late teenage years, or they just haven't had aspects of their life present that part of their nature to themselves. But then when I go back and I talk to them about it 20 years later, 30 years later, they're not going to experience their chart in the same way because they've had 20 or 30 years of experience in life and experience and reflection of self. And there are things that they've learned. And so, intuition is absolutely part of it because, like let's say somebody has Mercury and Gemini, and they love multitasking, right? They like trying to do 50 things at once. Well, maybe they've learned that fries them. It fries their neurological system, and they can't take on as many things as they want to, and that it gives them a low attention span. Well, I could talk to them about that, but also if I observe that they do have a calmer nature, there's a good chance that they've already learned that about themselves. And so why would I go and rehash a lesson they've already learned when there's actually more that we can glean from that?
Interesting. I see.
I love it when my clients tell me, yeah, that was me in the past. You're meant to grow.
There's this study that came out recently that the brain is still developing until 30. I was like, whoa, that sounds a lot. uh, with that said, would you say do you see a difference between clients younger versus like before 30 versus after 30? Is that a thing?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, just
Okay.
around just around the 30 mark
Yeah.
is when you go through what's called your first Saturn return. And Saturn, he takes 29 and a half years to complete an orbit around the sun. And so basically at 29 and a half, he comes back to the exact same position he was when you were born. And Saturn is a planet of limitation, but he is also a master of manifestation. So when you come against or come up to that first Saturn return, it is truly the first time that you have enough information about yourself and your life that you can start to reflect on who you are in a deeper way. And when you come up to that first Saturn return, you get to see all the things you did well and you have the wisdom to start recognizing, what have I done well that I need to keep doing? And then also, what are the areas that, or what are the things that I did, from a lack of wisdom and discernment that I need to make sure I learn from so that I don't repeat those things. And so I work with people who are younger. I love, actually, I used to do a lot of reading for children. So I would do it for parents, so that they could understand their child, how their child learns, how they give and receive affection, how they're going to get along with siblings, that kind of thing. I've also worked with teenagers who are trying to figure out what's next for them, right? Because when you leave high school, a lot of times you kind of have a blank canvas, and so sometimes they don't necessarily know themselves well enough yet, or they haven't fully reflected on their desires, and they just need, a little bit of support in making those future decisions, because it's a big decision to ask of somebody who's, yeah, 17, 18, 19, to decide what you're going to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. But whew, and you need to talk about it, right? Because if you just internalize anything, it just creates this echo chamber, and everything gets out of proportion, and you start spiraling down. So, I would say, on a more basic level, just having someone to talk about it's game changer.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and someone who's going to reflect your goodness back to you.
Yeah.
A lot of times at that age, I mean, teenage years are awkward generally to begin with. Some people are lucky to have some blazing confidence, whereas others, they're a lot more conscious of their seeming inadequacies, and they kind of blow those out of proportion. And so when you have someone who sees the totality of who you are and what's possible for you, and can reflect the goodness back to you, you can actually make better decisions that come from the possibility of developing the potential of who you are, as opposed to, I'm going to do this because it's safe and I can't screw it up.
Yeah, generally, you regret those decisions later in life. That's what I heard.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
I see those TikToks where people go to retirement houses and they just ask the elderly, like, what are the biggest regrets? And it's funny how they always kind of repeat themselves, right? Like, there's like five big ones that they kind of all say, if they do have regrets, it's generally one of those five, and one of them is like not taking bigger risks in life, not going for my actual dream. So
If
it's a
you have
thing.
one life to live, if you have one life to live, why not make it the best possible?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And in 100 years from now, like I said, that's another argument that I hear a lot. 100 years from now, everything that you know, everyone that you know, like like they all gonna be dead either way. That's a little bit more dramatic, but it's true.
It's a bit of
Everyone.
a
Hmm?
yeah, it's a bit of a nihilistic view,
Yeah,
nihilistic view.
yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But Alexander, going back to, if you're okay, I would like to go back to the Saturn thing a little bit.
Yeah.
Hypothetical. Let's. I would like to do a hypothetical now. Let's say we live in a different solar system.
Yeah.
Right? Where Saturn actually takes 40 years to come back. Would you say, again, this is just hypothetical, right? That humans would just start like making this transition at 40 then? At the 40 years mark? Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Yeah. So if everything else was the same,
Yeah.
except Saturn
Yeah.
was the one who took 40 years instead of 30 years, right? So
Yeah.
everything else is the same. We're still on planet Earth, everything else is the same. Then yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And how did they come up with the nature of Saturn? Well, we can thank the Sumerians for that, who lived several thousand years ago, because they spent thousands of years watching the planets and observing the planets' effect on the weather. And so Saturn has a nature that is cold and dry. And so when you think of somebody who's cold and dry, they are kind of discerning, maybe a bit skeptical. And so when we come to that first Saturn return, we take on that nature with ourselves. So it happens for us at 29 and a half. Kind of thankful for that. I don't think I'd want to wait until I'm 40 to experience it the first time. You know, how many people want to delay brain development that much? I'm not sure. I mean, it would be cool if it kept growing at that point, sure. But to also have that moment of deep reflection and having the opportunity to, I guess I could say, do the work of rectification with yourself, you know, of correcting things. And then also, like I said, building on what you've done right. And it, you know, for anybody who is potentially going through their Saturn return, it's important that you do that. Most people focus on the things they kind of screwed up on. But when that Saturn return comes, you know, you have to also look at what you've done right, because that's the bricks that build your house. You can correct the bricks all you want, but if you don't lay them out, it doesn't do anything.
What's the worst case scenario? Let's say you don't do the rectification. What's the outcome?
Well, that is a great question because not everyone does. And so a lot of times, you know, what are people doing around the age of 30?
Um, I think it depends
Generally,
greatly. Look, my
generally you're making
generation,
career and family decisions.
family decisions, okay.
Career and family
Career and
decisions,
family decisions, okay. No.
right? Now, I mean, maybe they're still traveling the world
Yeah, that's
and
what I
they're
was
putting
about to
off
say. Because I have
and they're
friends who are
putting off those decisions,
exactly, yeah.
right? So, you know, usually, and especially when we are working with that Saturn return, that is where we do start making those decisions too, because Saturn, he is also a foundational planet, and family and career are part of our foundations as human beings. So if we put off those decisions, well, I always tell people the decisions you don't make get made for you, and you
Mm.
usually don't like how they turn out. So if you haven't engaged in that work of coming to understand yourself, where you've gotten things right, where there are aspects of yourself that maybe need to be tempered or healed, then that's going to show up in the relationships that you form. That's going to show up in the careers that you engage or the career moves that you make. Because how many people have suddenly realized in their 40s that they're in the wrong place because they didn't know themselves, or they pursued something without fully understanding what it was going to ask of them.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not fully on them, right? That's kind of society. Like they demand you to find a career path at 18. Like, whoa. It's like the B movie. Have you watched the B movie? It's like you need to choose your career for the rest of your life right now. It's like, okay.
Absolutely. Like I said, I find it ridiculous that you're asking somebody to know themselves to that degree. And yet, at the same time, there is always the possibility to know yourself better. And I think that the one thing we don't adequately do as a society, you know, like in you know the Western world in general, is that we don't really encourage people to self-reflect. And then the other thing is that we also don't encourage enough gratitude either. How much misery could be allayed? How much misery could actually be effectively gone if we were better at giving each other gratitude?
Yeah.
What's the number one reason that people leave relationships or jobs? Generally, they feel a lack of reciprocation. And the reciprocation often really just boils down to some simple gratitude. Please, thank you. That was wonderful. You're amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, humans suck at that. That's true. Generally, not all of them. Yeah, that's true.
And that all boils back to the me and I that you were, talking about in terms of phone calls. What is people's number one word that they use? Me and I. And they forget to think outside of themselves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We all need to be a little bit more positive, a little bit more grateful. I was talking with a buddy of mine the other day, and he was like, "Bro, you're renting, you're throwing your money away. Like, it started like going this rant about renting versus owning a house. Like, bro, no, like." I'm paying someone to live somewhere. I have a roof. I have somewhere to stay. I was like, in my mind, it was amazing that I'm able to rent.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So I think this shows a little bit how gratitude can shape your reality. Basically, I'm just happy to come home every day, and he probably is not. He's probably miserable. I don't know. I'm coming.
There's no correct answer for everybody,
Yeah.
right? Because maybe you're in a place where instead of being bogged down by an expensive mortgage, maybe that is money that you are reinvesting into your own business so that one day buying a house is going to be peanuts for you. And there's no correct answer for every person. And this is why you have to know yourself, because then you can start putting your money, so to speak, on the right bets with yourself.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And so the answer that works for him may not work for you.
Totally. Um, Alexandra, so you mentioned on the Hermetic principles, right? And apparently
Yeah.
there's 12 of them? Is that
7.
7? Could we go through the 7 real quick? Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I'm really gonna have to pick my brain here a little bit.
We
But
can look it up if you prefer.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you have the Hermetic principle of mentalism. So the Hermetic principle of mentalism is that the all is mind. So basically, your thoughts create reality. So having good thoughts is really important.
Wait, one second. Should I look it up first? Or you want to try
Yeah,
to?
you can go ahead, but I'm just going to go off of memory here. So if
Okay.
I'm forgetting anything, you can remind me.
All right.
Um, so then we also have the principle of correspondence, as above, so below. So as things are in the heavens, so they are with us. The macrocosm is reflected in the microcosm. You have the principle of vibration. You have the principle of cause and effect. You have the principle of rhythm. You have the principle of, did I mention cause and effect? You have the principle of gender. And then who am I missing here? I'm missing one of them.
Polarity.
Polarity. There we go.
All right. Wait a second. I think I know this. Give me just a second, guys. Hold on. I have this book here called the Kybalion.
Yes, the Kybalion has deeper teachings on those 7 Hermetic principles, and it was written by 3 initiates. Yeah, that's an amazing book. Read it. Read it.
The 3 initiates. Yeah, there you go. I remember that I was super interested on it, on like the principles a long time ago, and I never actually read it. But yeah, that's crazy. And this was based on, as you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, on Egyptian knowledge, right?
Yes. Well, Hermetic. So the teachings of Hermes basically traveled northward into Egypt, and then from Egypt into Greece.
From Egypt into Greece. I see. Ooh.
Well, you've got a really great book there. You have to read it, seriously.
You know how I got into this? Have you heard about the Skywalker Ranch?
No.
So there's this ranch. It's oh man, it's a lot. But I will summarize. There's this ranch in the U.S. where for many, many, many years, people have been seeing UFOs and paranormal phenomena. That's why it's called the Skinwalker Ranch, because I think the natives that lived on the land a long time ago used to see those paranormal things, and they just nickname it Skywalker or Skinwalker. I'm sorry, Skywalkers. that's that's
Yeah. I was like, is this a Star Wars thing?
I'm sorry, that's not Star Wars. It's Skinwalker. And anyway, in one of the stones in there, they had one of the Hermetic principles engraved. They had as above as
So
below.
below.
So below. And I started, and the guys who were presenting the Skinwalker Ranch, like, yeah, that's the Hermetic principle, and we see aliens here all the time. I was like, what? No, I need to look more into that. And then I went into this rabbit hole, and I found this book. So
Amazing. I
there you
love
go.
it. You have to read it. It is a good read.
Um. All right. So, Alexander, we're approaching the end of the show. I would like to ask you if someone wants to book a session with you. How does that work?
Oh, well, first of all, I would be honored to. I love being able to present to people the very best of themselves and what they have the capability to grow into. So you can find me at astrologerroyale.com, also on Instagram at astrologer.royale. And I am happy to connect with anyone who is on that journey of knowing themselves, or, especially for all the aspiring and budding entrepreneurs out there who feel like they need a little extra boost from the stars to accelerate their progress.
There you go. Beautiful. Do you have any final words?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's so many.
Read the Kybalion. Read the book.
Within you is the most incredible being. And with a little bit of love, with a little bit of discipline, and with a little bit of self knowledge, not only who you are can become truly amazing, but your life can change. And whatever you think your deepest failings are can also change. And when you overcome those hurdles, there isn't much to stop you. And so I truly encourage you to look up to the stars, your stars, for inspiration, for growth, to know thyself, and to live as that divine being.
Beautiful. Alexander, thank you so much.
It was my honor. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, everyone, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Leave a comment. I want to know what you thought about today's episode. Until next time, bye-bye. Oh, there we go. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rank the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast is recommended to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. Check out now the BRUCAST store, Explore store, filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with BRUCAST. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Buy now at brew-cast.com/store. Again, that's brew-cast.com/store. Link on the description below. Be a BRUCAST model and get free stuff. We'd love to see how you and your loved ones enjoy BRUCAST. Snap a picture of yourself, your family, your friends, or even your pets wearing BRUCAST merch, or watching an episode of the show and send it to us and become part of BRUCAST. We will feature you and your pictures at the end of every episode, just like the ones you're seeing on the screen right now. You can upload your pictures at brew-cast.com/contact or tag us on social media. Alright everyone, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much and see you next time. Bye bye.